It's been a tough, brutal week for Jeb Bush in the media. What are the lessons learned here? So folks, I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of politicians, CEOs, executives all over the world for 30 years. And I can tell you, in general, these people worry about three things when it comes to media interviews. They worry about the tough, surprise, gotcha question. They worry about a reporter who has an agenda and has a bias against them. And they worry about media organizations that are biased against them. Oh, they editorialized against us last year. We don't want to talk to them this year. That sort of thing. And in my experience, that's not what gets people into trouble. Case in point, look no further than what happened to Jeb Bush last week. Jeb Bush was asked by Megyn Kelly on the Fox News channel, knowing what we know now, would you have gone into Iraq? Would you have invaded Iraq? Was essentially the question. And here's what he did. His first answer was to say, well, of course we would, and so would Hillary Clinton, which didn't make any sense. His next answer was he didn't hear the question properly. His third answer, and this is all happening over the course of a week, his third answer was that to talk about something like that would somehow be disrespectful to military families, which makes no sense. His fourth answer was to say, well, that's a hypothetical and I can't answer hypotheticals. Well, everything a politician does is a hypothetical about the future. The fifth thing he said was, okay, well, if I have to answer hypotheticals, okay, I wouldn't go. It was a sad, sad performance. Now, folks, this isn't just me saying it. It's not the mainstream media. It's not liberal media. It's the conservative media establishment saying this was a pathetic performance on Jeb Bush's part. I mean, the one thing we were all told about Jeb Bush, whether you think he's too liberal, whether you think he is too much in favor of Common Core, immigrant, all those other issues aside, the one thing we've been told about Jeb Bush that most people accepted was that this is the smart, savvy Bush. And yet, the way he handled himself in this whole episode did not make him look smart, did not make him look savvy. Now, let's look at what actually happened here. Those three big things I told you politicians worry about, none of them were the case here. This happened on Fox News. Megyn Kelly, someone clearly seen as very sympathetic to conservative politicians, Republican politicians. This wasn't some reporter out with a vendetta again. This wasn't David Corn of Mother Jones. The question itself is something everybody's been predicting for years. This is the least surprising question you could possibly get if you were Jeb Bush. So there's nothing about the question that was surprising or shocking. There was no bias by the reporter anchor, and the news outlet itself, Fox News Channel. I mean, let's not forget, the founder of Fox News, Roger Ailes, was the political consultant to help George H.W. Bush beat up Dan Rather in '88 and get elected. So by all three measures, this was supposed to be easy, at least as far as what most politicians do. Now, here's my theory. The Jeb Bush team has gotten lazy. They didn't really step back and say, what are the most obvious questions we could be asked? Number one. Number two, they didn't rehearse on video. Number three, they didn't come up with a good, simple, clear message to answer the question and diffuse curiosity. That's what they should have done, and they're not doing it here. So the real lesson for politicians, don't waste so much time trying to figure out, ooh, did this reporter write something nasty about someone I liked 10 years ago? Focus on the most likely questions you're going to face, regardless of who the reporter is. And then come up with a reasonable answer that intelligent people will say, that makes sense. To say in a presidential campaign that you don't answer hypotheticals, Governor Bush, if the Democrats pass a bunch of spending legislation and ask you to raise taxes, will you double income taxes? That's a hypothetical. I'm pretty certain he would say, no, I will not raise income taxes. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I refuse to answer all hypothetical questions, unless it makes me look good, unless it helps me say something that is appealing to my base. You can't do that, folks. Folks, I'm not being partisan here. This cuts both ways. So prepare for your messages. Look at every single question as an opportunity to hit your message out. It doesn't matter if the reporter likes you or doesn't like you, although in my experience, what happened here is actually more common. It's the reporters who don't have any bias against you and are not really asking any surprise question. Those are the questions that get people in trouble.